Meanwhile, in the tech space, I should say video games count as tech, right? I think that's fair. Activision is betting big on esports. Yahoo Finance's Dan Roberts is here to break it all down. Dan, what are we talking about when we talk esports?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because every time I cover something in esports, I feel like first you have to do the 101 of what are esports again? I do the same thing with crypto, because I don't assume that our viewers or readers all know about esports. They've probably heard of it, and they've heard a lot of hype about it, that esports is growing really fast. What is it? So very simply, watching other people play video games. It's competitive video gaming. And then there's really two camps here. There's streaming, because Twitch, which is owned by Amazon, is in this business in a big way. So you can be watching competitive video gaming online at home, but there's also live events. And the live events business is really growing quickly. Esports events have sold out MSG, filled up Barclays. So Activision Blizzard has this entire esports league division, and that includes League of Legends, World of Warcraft, Overwatch League is their big earner. Yesterday I was at a conference in Chicago. I was actually able to talk to Daniel Cherry. He is the CMO of Activision Blizzard Esports Leagues. And I basically asked him, look, even though everyone in esports says it's growing so quickly, it's such a big business, there's a lot of skepticism still, right? But you hear that all these big brands and Fortune 500 companies are sponsors of esports leagues. So I said, when you get in the room with these brands, what's the pitch you give them? You know, how do you convince them you guys should partner up with an esports league? Here's what he told me.
There's a few kind of, to your point, killer stats that make sense. And one of the reasons why I joined is because I saw these stats. The first is that there's not really any sports league outside of maybe the NBA that has really engaged APAC at scale. Premier League is probably another. So the Asia Pacific audience. So there's a massive audience there. And those fans play video games, mostly PC-based video games, you know, and probably basketball are the two most, you know, kind of engaged activities among youth. And for our brand partners to be able to kind of take a turnkey platform like esports, or for us, Overwatch League, and engage that level of an audience, I think it's pretty phenomenal. And our rights model, like I said, you can work across our entire ecosystem. So unlike traditional sports, you can work with us at the professional level. We also have essentially a minor leagues called Contenders. We have a kind of grassroots initiative, which we call the Open Division. And we also have a college platform called TESPA. So when you partner with us, you partner with the whole ecosystem. And then you see the audience stats. So to your point, when you think about traditional sports, our audience among 18 to 34 is about 90+% of our audience. Now, the most important part there is that our 18 to 34-year-old audience is up about 40%, 50% year over year. And the only two sports leagues that are up among 18 to 34 are us, and you have Don Garber backstage, MLS. MLS is up about 4% according to Nielsen in 18 to 34-year-old fans, and we're up 50%. And you think about the median age of sports fans across all the leagues, our median age is 26. MLS, I think, based on Nielsen's latest stats from last year, is about 41 years old, which is a young sport, comparatively. And the rest of the sports, including the NBA, you're talking about 50, 60 years old as a median age of your fan. So when you think about investing in the future, pretty much a no-brainer. And then the global scale makes it that much easier, I think, to buy in.
The fun question that I annoy every esports person with is, are these guys athletes?
Ask the athletes. It's very simple. Ask Steph Curry if these guys are athletes. Naomi Osaka, who's the #1 tennis player in the world, she came to the Overwatch League Grand Finals last year. She travels on the road. If you follow her Instagram, she plays Overwatch. She knows how good these players are. So she and her sister came to the Grand Finals. D'Angelo Russell plays for the Brooklyn Nets. We sold out Barclays Center for 2 days in a row, and he said this was louder than any game he's been at. He came to the Grand Finals. So the athletes know. You look at, you know, James Harden and others, they play Call of Duty all the time. They want to get the phone numbers of the players in our league because they know these are the best players in the world, so they can come over and play their friends and get better. So yes, they know that it takes 10,000 hours to get great at anything, and these players do it. And I think the athletes recognize other athletes. So yes, I do think they're, you know, to me we use the term player, but yes, they're athletic, not in the physical stature sense of the word, but does Steph Curry look like LeBron James? Is he any less of an athlete because he doesn't look like LeBron? But his hand-eye coordination, his spatial awareness, his balance, all those things are things that our players in our league have in spades. So I think, yes, they are.
I don't know if I'm on board with them being athletes.
I disagree that they're athletes. I disagree wholeheartedly.
Oh.
Well,
I mean, some of them
they can tweet me if they're angry. But so, Dan, I had a question for you because the video gaming industry has experienced a slump. There's been a bit of a slump. And so I'm wondering if esports, right, is that kind of like next frontier for a lot of these companies that are trying to expand and grow.
Okay, so I don't think it's just esports. Esports is part of it, but really it's streaming. Just this week, Google announced that Google will now get into gaming with Stadia, which is a streaming platform. So to a company like Activision Blizzard, rather than this being a competitor, this is just a platform for them. I'm sure, you know, you give it a few months or maybe just weeks, you're going to see, oh, AB Overwatch League partners up with Google for Stadia. So I think, yeah, console gaming might be done. You know, maybe you won't any longer have to have a hunk of plastic, but it's going to be all about streaming. And within that, part of that is esports. Part of that is you can just play Tony Hawk via streaming with your Google Stadia controller. So that's where it's headed.
I just still don't know if the Rockstar aura around these players will be the same. But hey, I have been wrong in the past.
Right.
Dan Roberts, thanks so much for joining.